Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're looking at the sources you sent us about that awful Air India crash, Flight AI 171, back on June 12th. Our job here is to really unpack what happened based on these initial reports, what the investigators are looking at, and maybe what it signals for, aviation safety overall. Okay, let's dig in. So let's start right there with the basic facts. Flight AI 171, it was a Boeing 7878 Dreamliner. What exactly went down?
Right. So this flight was from Ahmedabad heading to London Gatwick, and it crashed, incredibly fast. We're talking just 30, maybe 33 seconds after it lifted off.
Hmm.
Altitude was only about 625 feet. It came down near BJ Medical College, hitting a hostile block. And the loss of life, it's just devastating. Everyone on board, all 241 people, it's 230 passengers, 12 crew, they all perished. Plus, tragically, people on the ground too. Estimates are between 19 and 34 fatalities there. So total numbers are somewhere around 260, maybe up to 275 lives lost.
That scale is hard to comprehend. But amidst all that tragedy, the sources mentioned something truly, well, almost unbelievable. It was the survivor.
Yes. Just one. A man named Vishwash Kumar Ramesh. He's 38, a British Indian national. Apparently, he was in seat 11A. Managed to get out through an emergency exit. He's recovering now from what they're calling minor injuries. Quite remarkable, really.
Absolutely remarkable. Okay, so with an event that happened so quickly, so catastrophically low to the ground, what did the initial scene tell investigators? Any immediate clues?
Well, yeah, there were some pretty telling signs right away from photos and videos. It looks like the aircraft tried to take off in a highly abnormal configuration. Specifically, the landing gear was still down. And crucially, the flaps were up.
Flaps up on takeoff.
Exactly, flaps up, which, for takeoff is, well, it's fundamentally wrong. Flaps generate essential lift at low speeds. There were also reports, and some video evidence suggests this too, that the plane was swaying pretty violently just before impact.
Okay, gear down, flaps up, violent swaying.
Yeah.
That immediately raises questions, doesn't it? What does that configuration suggest investigators are likely focusing on? Is it mechanical? Human error?
It points them in several directions, honestly. Could be a systems issue preventing proper configuration, or perhaps, a critical oversight in procedures, human factors. Or maybe even flight control problems causing that sway. The good news, if you can call it that, is they found both black boxes quite quickly. The flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder.
Right, the FDR and CVR. Crucial.
Absolutely. So that analysis is happening right now. It's a joint effort. India's leading it, but they've got help from the NTSB in the U.S., the FAA, the UK's AAIB, and Boeing technicians are involved too. They're expecting a preliminary report within about 30 days.
Okay, 30 days for a preliminary. And beyond the immediate crash scene, what about the plane itself or the crew? You always look at maintenance, pilot experience.
Yeah, standard procedure. Air India has stated the aircraft was well maintained. It had major checks done in 2023 and engine overhauls just earlier this year in 2025. And the pilot flying, very experienced, over 10,000 flight hours reported.
10,000 hours. So that makes the takeoff configuration even more puzzling, perhaps.
It certainly raises questions, and, it's maybe important context here. There was a parliamentary panel report back in March. It flagged concerns about chronic understaffing in India's key aviation bodies. We're talking the DGCA, which handles safety regulations, BCAS for security, AAI for airports.
Uh-huh. So potential systemic issues and oversight.
Potentially, yes. The report suggested this understaffing could compromise safety oversight, things like inspections, certifications, audits. It's a background factor investigators will likely consider, looking at the whole system, not just this one flight.
Right, the bigger picture.
Hmm.
Now, beyond the technical investigation, there's the immense human cost. Who were the victims? And how has the response been handled?
Well, the victims were from several countries, primarily India, of course, but also a large number from the UK, 53 people, 7 from Portugal, 1 from Canada. And, quite notably, the former Chief Minister of Gujarat, Vijay Rupani, was reported to be among the passengers who died. In terms of response, Tata Sons, which owns Air India now, and Air India itself, they've announced significant compensation. It's 1 crore, that's 10 million rupees per victim's family. They've apparently already paid out 25 lakh, or 2.5 million rupees, as an interim payment, and Tata is setting up a 500 crore trust fund as well.
That's substantial. But there was also some public reaction, some controversy around how things were handled initially by one company.
Yes, there was. It involved AISATS, which is an airport ground handling and services company. Apparently, there was some kind of office celebration shortly after the crash. News of that got out, and there was, understandably, a huge public backlash. It was seen as incredibly insensitive. It led to 4 senior executives at AISATS being removed from their positions.
Wow. Yeah, that highlights just how raw the emotions are and the scrutiny everyone involved is under.
Hmm.
So, wrapping this up for now, this deep dive into Flight AI 171, it really underscores that complex interplay, doesn't it, between the machine, the human element, and the wider system of safety and oversight.
It really does. And what's striking, I think, is the speed and scope of the investigation already. They're looking at everything. That takeoff configuration, was it mechanical failure, human error, flight control issues? And you have to remember, this is India's deadliest air crash in almost 30 years. It's also the very first fatal crash involving a Boeing 787 Dreamliner globally. So the implications are huge, likely adding pressure for those ongoing regulatory reforms we mentioned.
Absolutely. So, as we wait for more information, maybe here's something for you to think about. That lone survivor, Vishwash Kumar Ramesh. He experienced those final 30 seconds from inside the cabin, seat 11A. What tiny detail, maybe a sound, a movement, something someone said, might he remember that could unlock this entire investigation? It's often those small personal observations that prove critical in finding answers.